What would be what's your ultimate build? No money, nothing, money, no limit.
I would have to say, a full bouncer.
Yeah.
Full bouncer. Go balls to the walls, 11, 12, 1,300 horsepower.
Just hammer it.
Nothing but air.
Busted knuckle all the way to the top, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Do it to it.
That I have not been to a bouncer event yet, a true one.
So I like their 6.6 platforms and their LS1. Again, I think a lot of people like to be brand loyal. Hemis, Jeeps, I don't knock it. It's just not for me. I'm not a big Hemi fan, and it's nothing to do with the motor itself or the brand itself. I just think they're overrated, which sucks because I want to love them. I really do. And they decided they wanted to do a Gladiator build with the AccuAir air ride management system on it. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, what you wanting to do it for? And they're like, we're doing it for SEMA. I was like, well, sweet. I was like, so it's just going to be in the parking lot, and we're just sitting there shooting shit. And he's like, no, it's going to be in the gear alloy booth. I said, okay, now you have my attention. I said, because if it's just in the parking lot, it don't really mean that much. But if it's actually in a booth, then that's kind of cool.
Welcome to the Off-Road Campfire Podcast, where stories are told and legends are made. Tonight we have Curtis Owens, owner of FBK Off-Road in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Curtis has over 30 years of off-road experience, 20 years in the off-road business, and 3 kids, a wife, and you live in the Myrtle Beach area, man.
Yep.
You got other highlights. You had a SEMA build, which we'd love to talk about. Okay. Man, and you just got a heck of a lot of experience in the mechanic world. Man, Curtis, thanks for joining us. How the heck are you today?
Doing great, man. How you doing?
Man, I'm blessed more than I deserve, man. Thanks for being with us. It is just me today. Most of you will notice Clinton is not here. I guess when Christmas comes around and everybody wants a V8 in their Jeep. Clinton gets busy. And of course, Curtis, you may be different. It is not, a V8 is not on my Christmas list. It probably will be a long time before it is on my Christmas list. But for those who it is and is working Clinton to death, then more power to you. Clinton loves you. But yeah, it's just us tonight. He's, either at the shop or vast asleep. So he's missing tonight, but it's just Curtis and myself tonight. So, yeah, Curtis, I met you at the Myrtle Beach Jeep Jam this year. It's always a good event. I actually just I actually saw you on a video today with my kiddo. Good old Handy Hal. Was at a North Myrtle Beach, I guess, touch a truck, and there was your booth in the background. So I was like, "Hey, there's Curtis." Good old Handy Hal video. Not a plug, unless you have a 3-year-old. It's not a plug. But man, you've been do what?
I said other people out there is probably like, who's Handy Hal?
Who's Handy Hal? Well, you know what? You're going to YouTube it. You're going to look it up. And good luck to you. Yeah, my kids love the videos. So, but now that everybody's going to go look him up, because they're curious who he is. South Carolina legend. So, you've been I mean, in the off-road world for years. 30 years about. And now, start me from the beginning. Were you born in Myrtle Beach area or South Carolina? Or?
Yeah, I was actually born and raised right here in Myrtle Beach. Started life actually in the city limits of Myrtle Beach. We had a farm right downtown. So we had about 65 acres right there. We had another 150 acres out in the Sox T community, which is still Myrtle Beach, but it's out in the county, almost next to Conway. And then we had another 250 acres in Loris that we rented as well. And my dad, what he did was he was basically a used car salesman, but with cows. So he would buy them poor, cheap prices. Nobody really wanted them. Then we would build grain bins and all like that and make our own feed. And that's where the mechanical skills come in, because farm equipment always breaks down.
Yeah, you're saying downtown Myrtle Beach that you had farmland. We're not talking about 2000. We're talking about what, 70s, late 70s, mid 70s, 80s?
That was 70s, 80s, 90s, it's 2000s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, we still got the 65 in Myrtle Beach. We don't have the rest of it. We still got the 65 there.
Okay.
But, it's
seeing
not,
how
it's
much
not really
that's developed,
anymore.
how much that's developed, that's an absolute shocker that you have 65 acres anywhere close
it's
to.
right around the corner from the mall too.
Oh, really?
Yep.
All right.
There's still a little bit of undeveloped property over there, but it's Myrtle Beach is not what I grew up into.
No,
it's way more grown up now, but we have great resources here, and it's always nice to see my hometown like thrive and get bigger and all that stuff. Do I wish it was still a small town? Some days.
Yeah.
Especially on the way to work.
Yeah. That is probably the truth, especially right now. Probably in the winter's not so bad, but Memorial Day rolls around and it's
Honestly,
game on.
Myrtle Beach is about year round now.
Oh, wow.
See, when I was growing up, I remember Labor Day hit, they rolled the sidewalks up. It was done.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And it didn't start back until spring and the following year with Can-Am days. And now it's year round. It's so busy around here. Yep.
Well, that probably does great for business. What do you, I guess one of my thoughts is, what do guys say what do you know about off-road and being from Myrtle Beach?
Well, I grew up in the mud.
Yeah.
So
a little bit different.
That was my cup of tea back in the day. And, as I got older, I really started digging the rocks. It's a whole different mindset. I absolutely love it. I can get myself in trouble. I can spend a ton of money, but I just like the simple stuff. I've got a XJ that I gave to my 10-year-old son. Yes, I said that.
Very cool.
He was actually 7 when I gave it to him, and he drives the crap out of it, man. I started
That's awesome.
at 6 years old, and he just does amazing. And it's amazing how many people that's been in the industry for as long as they have and brag about going rock crawling and all like that, and he'll pass them on a trail. And man, they get mad. God, they get mad. I don't know, man. He's got an eye for it. He'll pick his own path. Like we go up Uwari, I'll tell him go up Daniel. He'll pick his own path and take off.
Yeah.
And Gulch is the same way. We go to Gulch a good bit too. We love the track up there. And he drives whenever he can.
That's awesome. Yeah, you get a kid behind the wheel young. It's a benefit and a blessing for sure. And yeah, it's all about vision. Like it's seeing where you're going and what you're doing and knowing what your rig does, and that's awesome for him to be able to feel it and take those lines that he needs to take.
Yep.
Yeah. The mud. The mud and rocks is, it is. And if you haven't, I don't know, if you haven't been to a good old fashioned Southern mud run, find one, find one and go to it.
There's something about a good, what is it? I think it's, 120 foot mud run.
Oh yeah.
Man, the mud drags, all that stuff. There's a few of them around here, and it's pretty intense. Some guys get crazy with it. But they spend some big money on the motors.
Yeah, you can't knock it because it's just different. It's still 4-wheel drive, and it's still
yeah.
motor, and it's still
Oh,
horsepower, and it's still drivetrain. It's just
Yep.
different.
Yep.
If you haven't experienced it, try to find one, experience it. But you know, I stay away from mud. Because one, I just don't like cleaning it.
Same here.
Yeah,
I got lazy. I really got lazy in my old age. Buddy.
I'll stick with the rocks and do all that. But yeah, and you learn in mud and rock when you've kind of had both, that it really sets you up for really knowing a lot of good throttle control, understanding the rig, and so forth. I mean, growing up on a farm, I'm sure, and growing up on a farm in Myrtle Beach, there's no such thing as not mud.
Nope.
No, I mean,
we have black swamp mud.
Yeah, it's that. Well, you dig too far down, it starts getting stinky mud.
Yes,
you get in trouble with that one. What was it like growing up on a farm? I mean, how was your dad's? I mean, obviously your dad was a pinnacle part of that.
Yeah.
Was he the hard nosed? You're working, or was he the teacher kind of type?
He teach a little bit here and there, but you had to listen really good, because if you didn't listen really good, you got popped in the back of the head. It was like one of the flashlight deals. You hold the flashlight straight, son. You learn the first time. If you don't hold it straight, you're gonna get popped.
When parenting was good.
Definitely.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, what? Go for it.
Waking up 5 o'clock in the morning, Dad beating pots and pans around, because you got to get up. If he's up, everybody in the house has got to get up.
Right.
And there was, when I was younger, like I would wake up and we'd go milk cows to have cereal for the next day. We'd always put a cow away every year in the freezer, so we always had fresh meat. So it was a great thing. It was honestly a great thing. We didn't have a lot of the groceries that we have now. We'd have to go to the grocery store to get. We had a garden. We put everything up every year. Like I said, we made our own feed for our cows. So, like I said, Dad would put a cow away at least one a year, possibly two, depending on how good of a year we had. So we always had meat. And, all my friends loved to come over because we'd do steak and eggs for breakfast. But it had its perks, but it had some long hours too. There was always something to do on the farm. I was
going to say you better be up at 5, because it gets real hot in Myrtle Beach in the summer.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's always hay days too.
Yeah, that's
that was the worst part. I hated hay days.
Good old 100 degrees and humid, and there's days that wind doesn't blow.
Yeah. Very stale.
Yeah, did you go to? I mean, obviously you went to high school in Myrtle Beach. I mean,
yeah, I went through the whole school system here in Myrtle Beach. I went to Myrtle Beach Elementary, Myrtle Beach Primary, Myrtle Beach Middle, Myrtle Beach High School, all of them.
It seems like you didn't have much time to get in trouble.
Yeah, we made time.
Yeah.
Yep, we made time.
So what was your first rig? What was your first vehicle you drove? Besides farm equipment.
Besides farm equipment, I'd have to say it was a 67 Ford Bronco that me and my dad put together in the yard.
Oh, yeah, there you
go. That's where I learned how to drive 3 on a tree.
Oh, yeah.
We lifted it up a little bit, and that's when we found out we converted it over to a truck. We had to do some fiberglass work in the floors and all that stuff. And we used it as a hunting vehicle. So we did a lot of hunting back in the day, and we turned loose the dogs. The dogs would run the deer out to us, and we'd shoot the deer and then let the dogs up and go to another block and do it again. And I learned a lot about driving in that Bronco. And I guess my dad did too, because that Bronco ended up in the canal a couple times.
Ooh. Yeah, I can't imagine. So I had a 71 or 79 Bronco.
Yep.
for a while. That thing was just a
That's the big boy.
beast. The big boy.
Yep. The full size. First 2 years of full size, 78,
Yep.
79.
And good old headlights on the floorboard.
Yep.
Yeah, I miss that thing. Those things they were tough. They made vehicles differently back then.
Yep. And now those 2 years are worth almost as much as the mud puppies, the 66 to 77s.
Yeah.
It's crazy how much those have skyrocketed in price.
I told somebody the other day, you're not an enthusiast about something unless you regret selling something.
Oh man, I regret a lot.
If you don't regret the sell and the purchase of something, then you're not really into it. You have to have a heartbreak, and yeah, those are the purchases that you got rid of after a while. That yeah, they hurt. They hurt after a while. You stop thinking about them because you don't want any more.
Yeah.
So I can imagine Myrtle Beach. Go ahead.
I've been lucky enough to have plenty of really nice vehicles, so I look back on a lot of them. Wish I'd have never got rid of them, but
yeah,
you move on to the next project. So,
so I can imagine Myrtle Beach back in the days, smaller town.
Yep.
I'm sure you knew every cop there.
Oh yeah, they knew who I was as well.
Yeah. So what's your best young 20s, late teens police story?
Ooh, that's the problem. I don't know which one to pick.
I was gonna say one you can still tell and not get in trouble for. Still.
Oh man, I really don't know. I used to be a big drinker, so probably the one where the cop pulled me over because my truck was driving straight. Asked me if I was drinking and smelled it. And he said, "Man, I'm gonna follow you home." He's like, "You make sure you get your butt home." That was a good one.
Yeah.
I got a few other ones I can't make any comments about.
Yeah, if you haven't been ever asked to be followed home, you didn't have a real childhood. You didn't really have a young adulthood. There are times, I'll admit, that I drove the Jeep to the bar with the top off when it was cold, just because I knew I needed to go home. And that cold woke you up pretty quick.
Yeah.
When you start driving down the road, you got sober real quick at 30, 20 degrees in Colorado. Yeah, you just leave the doors off but you make it home. There's no doubt about that. You make it home for sure. So yeah, what you grow up on a farm. I mean, you learn pretty much everything.
Yeah.
You started welding when? I mean,
welding. I think the first time I ever picked up a welder was a pair of jumper cables and a battery, 2 batteries linked together. We didn't really have a welder when I was growing up, so if we had to tack something, we used batteries. We do 2 tractor batteries and a couple pairs of jumper cables, put them in series, and we just do what we could.
Yeah.
Run a rod out as fast as we could and chip it off, make sure it made good penetration. If it didn't, then we'd go a little slower next time. So that's how I first initially learned to weld. And then when I turned, I'd say 14, 15 years old, I worked for a sign company and I did aluminum handrails for like the high rises down here. And I was in charge of the welding on that. So that was where I really learned how to weld, because you know how finicky aluminum is. But it was a MIG welder. Never played with a MIG before. And it was an old MIG, so man, that thing, it definitely had some miles on it.
So you graduate high school, you start with the sign company, or did you work at the farm, or?
I worked at the farm. I've done a lot of little jobs here and there, trying to find my calling and all like that. And finally, I built a couple trucks earlier on, high school, all like that for friends and myself. And my dad was like, "Why don't you think about doing this professionally?" And I was like, "I really don't know, Dad." And I said, I'd rather keep it a hobby for now. And he's like, "Well," it's like maybe later on down the road. So I did. I dabbled in glass work. I dabbled in retail sales. I actually worked for Rocky Mountain Suspension Products for a little over a year. One of my good friends, Chris, is still there. I went to school with him. And he just turned, what was it? He just turned 20 or 21 years working there.
Yeah.
I was like, holy cow, man. But I left him, that was back 03, 04. And that's when I opened my shop in 05.
Okay.
I already had the mechanical side. I just needed the sales side of it. So they taught me what I needed to do for sales, and just went from there and started talking to people, and it just blew up from there.
So what did you do at RMS?
Just sales. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, that's all they are. They were mostly internet sales, which is the same as what they are now. You call them in, order your kit, and they send it to you, drop ship it. We did, what was it? Let's see, RCD, FabTech, Superlift, Skyjacker, had some rough country stuff back then. There's a couple other companies that they sold too, but they pretty much sell the same exact stuff again. They have never really changed anything.
Yeah. What was the worst job you had before you settled on opening a shop besides the farm? You can't. Yeah.
I wouldn't really say the farm was a bad thing. It set me up for a lot of big things in life.
Yeah. What was the worst like short-term gig?
Probably working for the Myrtle Beach Pavilion. That was I was 14 years old, and I was working for the food service department, which I was cleaning the windows in all the little huts. So it was always hot, always stunk like stale food, and I ended up getting fired from there. My supervisor fired me because on my lunch break I was playing video games. And he swore up and down it was in the handbook, and we never found it in the handbook. I never fought it. I was 14. I didn't care.
Yeah. Jeez.
That's probably my worst job, though.
Are we talking about Game Boy video games, or are we talking about like?
No, the arcade.
Oh, the ones in the arcade.
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah. Isn't that part of the joy of working there?
That's what I thought, but he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I just realized I got 8% on my phone. I got to grab my charger real quick.
All right, do it. There you go.
All right.
Sweet. I can't even see the book. You never know. My setup is this is the mic stand that I built, which is just a stick, and I painted it black, so it looks it looks like a mic stand if you see it from here. It's like, oh, how cool is that? There's 2 zip ties holding this on with a hole drilled through it. Hey,
sometimes the simplest things work the best.
Yeah, I was gonna say farm boy construction at its best, right there. Like that's scrap pieces laying around, and
man, I've rigged up enough stuff in my life too. I understand.
You're like, well, that'll work. Nobody's gonna know the difference. Nobody cares. I do think that's, it's always good to, I don't want to say put out a bad product, but I think we overthink a lot of projects way too much. And we just try to make it more complicated than it has to be.
That's like when I explain stuff to my guys, and I'll sit there and start talking to them, start doing like angles and percentages of what the links need to be and stuff like that on like custom builds or stuff like that, and they're sitting there like, what did you say? I'm like, never mind, dude. Just put it here and here.
Yeah. Take a step back, do some basic math. And I had a buddy tell me at one point in time, like, I don't know, it was a revelation for me. I had an issue with a braking system, and I was racking my brain about why it wasn't feeling the way it was supposed to feel, and why the I never heard of an ABS bleed. So I was like, well, what does that do? How's that going to fix it? And he just stopped. He stopped me and dude, chill. Like,
Yep.
it's just a pump, fluid, and air.
Yep.
It'll fix itself if it doesn't. Like, it's not a huge, like, it's not a complicated system. And I really sat back and was like, you're right. It's not. I have a radiator issue right now. And even then, I had to tell myself in the middle of that, it's not a complicated system. Water in, water out. Pump, that's it. That's the only thing that makes up the whole system right there. So find out where the problem is and just fix that. So it's, overcomplicating things, especially in the off-road world, and I'm sure with fabrication, it's you can drive yourself to an early grave if
Big time.
Yeah. So you got fired from that job. Are you when you started the shop in 2005? Were you married then, or?
No, I met my my now wife in 2009.
Okay.
I guess I can start. Let's see. I'll start in 2005 when I started in. I was actually working with a buddy of mine in the back of his shop, and I was splitting rent with him and all like that. That lasted about a year before I got my own building. Once I got my own building, we were sitting down and we were talking about it, and I hadn't really came up with a name, so we were just working as a shop, which that was back in 2005. Excuse me. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna name it Fat Bastard Customs. And when it come time to get everything going, I didn't have enough pocket change to get going. So I asked my mom to help me out with like first and last month's rent and all like that. And she said, well, what you gonna name the business? I said, Mom, I said, I got a perfect name. I said, Fat Bastard Customs. She said, what? She said, no. She said, no. I said, what do you mean, no? She said, I'm not helping you not with that name. She's like, that's the most horrible name I've ever heard in my life. And I said, what? I said, Mom, I'm just asking for like first month's, last month's rent. As soon as I get the money, I'll pay you right back. She's like, I'm not going to help you with that name. You're going to have to come up with a different name. So we sat back, and me and a couple guys sat down over lunch at a place down here called Victoria's. And we're just sitting there, we're eating lunch and all like that. And we're trying to keep that FBK. And one of the boys was like, why don't you say Farm Boy? Well, Farm Boy is one word, so and then Customs with a K. How about that? Just like you did with the Fat Bastard Customs. I was like, well, how about we just FBK, Farm Boy Customs? I said, then it goes back to my roots and all like that. And I was like, dude, that's perfect. So it stuck. And
it passes Mama's test.
Well, as soon as I went back to her, I was like, hey, I said, we come up with another name. This is a couple of days later. And she's like, well, what'd you come up with? And I said, Farm Boy Customs. She said, love it. Didn't even argue, didn't even bat an eye. I said, all right, cool. And we opened shop over on Seaboard Street off 501, which is right down from all the tattoo parlors and all like that, in the industrial park. And I don't think it was 2 months. It was a big success. And I ended up paying her back, and then I actually gave her some money back for interest too. And she didn't even ask for that. But I tell everybody I started the business with less than $4,000. And now I can't even say where we're at, but it's been a blessing.
You're doing just fine. Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. Where we started at, I went from a 2,500 square foot building down to an 1,100 square foot building. Then when the economy fell out in 2009, we built a shop on the backside of the house. That's after I met my wife. We built a shop on the house first of 2010. Worked out of there until 2017 when the economy come back out. and I was just doing word of mouth, all like that. So everybody just thought I'd just come out of nowhere. 17, I found the building that we're in now, but I was only in like 3,300 square foot of it, which is the back section of it. Let's see, September of 2021, we took over the center section. So it went from 3,300 to about 7,800 square foot. Fluctuated up and down, of course, around COVID with employees. At one point, I think 9 employees total. We're back down to about, I think it's 7 right now, including me and my wife, because she works sales too.
Okay.
We try to make it as much of a family business, and my nephew works for me, so that's family too. I've got Will. He's an airbag specialist. He loves lowered stuff. That's the reason he talked me into building a dually, a Slam dually, 1988 dually, old R30. Love that thing.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's got a 67 Volkswagen Beetle right now too, turboed, that he's fixing the airbag out. And then I just hired a Brazilian kid that is, dude, he's been amazing. He's young, eager to learn. He's got a little bit of mechanical skills. And so we're setting him up with smaller jobs right now until he gets going good. He drives a little Volkswagen Jetta that is static drop and drags everywhere. Like, he's built skid plates under this thing. He's cut his wheel wells out. Like, the rim and tire tucks up in. Like, he even notched where the CV axles is when he moved the subframe up.
Is it one of those where the camber is like just dumbfounding all the way to the top?
No,
he's got it.
It tucks in the fender. So it's going to have a little bit of camber. But
yeah.
He took me for a ride the other night, and he's like, "Man, come on, you got to ride with me." And I was like, "Man, I don't need to ride in that thing. I know what a ride's like." He said, No, come ride with me. I was blown away. That car actually rides great. Like, it's not one of those kind of cars. It rides great. And of course, now when you hit the ground and it drags the bottom and all like that.
I was gonna say it can't
crazy.
go over it can't go over a pebble, but
you can feel it rolling across the floorboard under your feet. But he loves it. He's got a huge following with the Brazilian crowd and the Spanish crowd around here. And now that he's on our team, they're flocking in.
Cool.
So it won't be long before we start doing some of those kind of builds in the shop too, because it's a lot more popular than I ever thought it was. Static drops have always been popular, but not that one. That's crazy.
So take me back a little bit to the beginning. Was there ever a time where you say, "This is the dumbest idea I've ever had"?
Just about every single day.
Okay, still. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Like, why do I get up every day and do this?
Yeah, why? Why do I put myself through this kind of torture? It's for the love. It's definitely for the love, and I wanna set up a future for my kids as well. Which, when I first opened the door, it was about making money. Now it's about helping, giving back to the community. Like, we just did an angel tree for the Boys and Girls Club with the Grand Strand. Did about 50, 60 angels. There was about 17 left before the deadline on the 10th. So we took the last 17, which 5 of those was going to be for us anyways.
Yeah, very cool.
And we went and did some stuff for them and all like that. And then we also posted it up that if you'd like to donate, do it. And I think we ended up getting like another $3,000 in donations.
Okay, wow.
So I was like blown away. And so all those kids got a lot more stuff than they
very cool
think they were going to get, which was amazing.
Very cool.
We do Christmas parades every year down here at the beach. We did 3 last weekend. We got 2 this weekend. And that's the main ones we do down here. We've got a couple other events giving back to the community for the holidays as well. So where we can do it, that's where we try to do it. And I try to stay as local as possible with everything.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, Toys for Tots is a great thing, but I've seen where it goes, and it's 9 times out of 10, it's not to your local community where you're donating. So we try to pick like Foster and Hope, or that's in this area, Boys and Girls Club. There's a couple veterans things we do too. That's the biggest thing. That and teaching our kids the real way to give back. Making sure that they're humble, making sure that they don't really need anything, but they don't demand it either. You know, of course, my kids, I'm going to give them a lot more than what I had growing up. You know, being on the farm, we didn't have a whole lot until my later years. The farm was just enough to get by. That's all. Well,
I guarantee that XJ is a lot nicer than that Bronco you had.
I don't know.
Maybe not. Maybe not.
I don't know. That XJ's had a rough life. Just bounced off quite a few rocks.
We still learn how to fix it.
Yeah. Well, that's one good thing about those XJs, man. You just point and shoot with them.
Oh, jeez.
Them things are crazy.
They are. How do you grow? I mean, you talk about succession planning. You talked about your kids kind of being the future. Your oldest is
10.
Is what? 10.
Yeah,
I mean,
10.
you're already thinking about these kids running the shop someday. I mean, what?
Oh yeah.
How does that change your mindset and what you do business wise, and the culture you try to set in your shop? And
it really just makes me it makes me want to get up every day. It makes me want to strive for it. You know, I know of at least 2 of my 3 kids that want to do it. They want to take over the shop. They want to run the shop. My middle kid, he's just trying to figure out where he's wanting to go.
Right.
Don't get me wrong, he loves the trucks and all like that, but it's not his passion. My oldest son, he goes with me to like the rock crawling stuff. Like we went to C10 Revival this year. And he just loves it. He loves it, absolutely loves it. And my youngest, man, he's got a beautiful mullet, and he's 5 years old. And he is Joe Dirtay, baby.
He's getting groomed already for a future.
My gosh, man. He's a trip. All my kids. We don't really watch what we say around them, so they have a lot of adult humor, and man, they'll have you cracking up. God,
that's awesome.
Up. And it comes naturally to them. That's the even scarier part.
Yeah. They are a product of their environment. So, and it is cool watching your young kids, just engage into what you do.
Yep.
And if you're working on stuff, they're wanting to look. They're wanting to check it out. What are you doing? My 3-year-old, I'm learning to lock my toolbox now.
Yep.
Because I will lose wrenches faster than, anything in the pantry. That's for sure. So it's I don't know what goes faster, the granola bars or the wrenches in my toolbox. So, or the hammers and everything else. So yeah, it's very cool to watch them. Watch them. Of course, now the problem.
Kids
do what?
I got full-size kids at the shop that do the same thing.
Yeah, right. Of course, my 3-year-old has a little black Power Wheels Jeep, and he always tells me it's broken. The axle's broken. We need to fix it. And then, of course, I have to sit back and be like, well, I wonder where he got that from. Unfortunately, the JK is always needing repair, henceforth the radiator that's sitting right there. So you, moving on. So you started. What was the first vehicle you out of your shop that you were splitting with? What was the first vehicle you rolled out of there? Paid customer.
First paid customer was a 2005, brand new truck, just rolled it off the showroom floor, Z71.
Okay.
And we did a 6-inch lift on it, 35s, and some Rockstar wheels.
Oh,
I remember it like it was yesterday. And
but I guess
believe
my
it or
question is,
not,
were you of the era that those were the coolest things ever, and now you look
no,
back going, maybe not so much, or did you know you didn't like them from the beginning?
I knew I didn't like it from the beginning. And believe it or not, that truck's still running around town.
Oh, geez.
Yep. Every time he sees me, oh, you remember you did this truck for me back in 05? I was like, oh, I remember.
I hate it every time I see it. But I'm
No,
glad you love it.
It still looks great. We've done a couple sets of tires on it since then and all like that. And he's
good.
always come back to me and all that. And, it's just
different wheels now.
No, still got the same wheels.
Just same wheels. Okay.
Still got the same wheels. He loves them, won't never get rid of them. He said it reminds him of his younger days now. And
I love it.
He said that he's fixing to give it over to his kid. His kid's turning 15 or 16 this year.
Jeez.
So he's fixing to give it over to him now. And I was like, he's going to change them wheels. And he's over nodding his head like, yep.
Yep. I'm going to keep them, mount them on the wall in the garage, as you should. Well, you hang on to them long enough, they'll be.
Huh?
I was going to say, you hang on to them long enough, they'll be worth what he bought them for. Maybe.
No,
probably not.
It won't be like old Pacer wheels or nothing like that. Those saw blades are coming back now and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't think those will ever come back.
So where did you go from getting recognized by SEMA and getting invited to SEMA and starting that build?
Well, we had a call come in from a guy named Drew Gunn, and he was working with Chris Payne, the truck guru. Okay. And Chris had seen a couple things, I guess, that we had done, and so I had talked to Drew at a couple other car shows back in the day, a few years before, and they decided they wanted to do a Gladiator build with the AccuAir air ride management system on it. So I was like, all right, cool. I was like, what you want to do it for? And they're like, we're doing it for SEMA. I was like, oh, sweet. Okay. I was like, so it's just going to be in the parking lot, and we're just sitting there shooting shit. And he's like, no, it's going to be in the Gear Alloy booth. I said, okay, now you have my attention. I said, because if it's just in the parking lot, it don't really mean that much. But if it's actually in a booth, then that's kind of cool. So we did all DV8 bumpers, fenders, Gen Y hitch, everything powder coated to match the graphite gray metallic on the Gladiator, orange accents. He had a place in North Carolina fully wrap it to a geographical map. He wanted it around like Moabish geographic map, but the guy got the memo. It was just wherever he decided to go. But it still looked cool. It turned out great.
Right.
Let's see. I'm trying to think. We did all kinds of stuff on this thing. It went crazy. Cat skin leather kit. Like it was a full build, like from the ground up. Like it sat on jack stands in the shop for 2 months.
Wow.
Waiting on powder coated stuff, matched fenders, painted matched fenders and bumpers, stuff like that.
And how much input did the owner have over what was it? Just his ideas all the way through, or did he give you guys free reign to run?
No. He said, "Hey man," he said, "I'm getting such and such and such and such." He's like, "You think you can get it done?" And I was like, "Yeah, we can get it done." So in the middle of everything, we ended up changing a few things, and then we changed a few things back. And it went back and forth a few times on some other things, and by the end of the day, we got it done right before Jeep Jam of last year.
Okay.
So we took it to Jeep Jam, and that weekend, like that Monday, right after Jeep Jam, they picked it up to take it to SEMA.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So we had it on display at Jeep Jam. He came down for a day. He actually lives in Virginia now. and he's been talking about doing another build this coming year. So he wants us to do another build for him. He hasn't decided on what he wants to do yet. He does. He works for a power company, and he is a male stripper.
Sweet. I don't think I'm going. You know, you're always curious what folks do for a living. That's one I think I'll just not train for. I don't think I would be successful in that job. But more power to him.
Yeah. My body looked a lot better. I'd probably do it.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to do the work.
See this.
Yeah, I don't want to do the work to get it there. That's I'd rather
he's
put my
guy, man. He's we've become really good friends over it. We went to SEMA together, hung out at SEMA, went and had dinner. His wife, my wife, me and him, all of us together. He's really down to earth, man. You would never think that. You never think that he would build something like that, and that's not his first build either. He's had many SEMA builds, but
that's cool.
I met him. He had a 2500 Chevrolet that was all done up that he had just got back from SEMA when I met him, and like I said, that was 4 or 5 years ago, 6 years ago now.
Okay.
And then he's talking about doing another one this year. He made a joke with me about 2 or 3 months ago. Because I asked him, I said, when you want to do a SEMA build? And he said, well, he said, if Trump gets back in, we'll have to build another SEMA build next year. And I started laughing.
Well, let's go. Well, now you got to live up to your end of the bargain on that deal.
Yeah, I already messaged him right after they said that he won. I said, all right, dude, you about ready to do this build yet? He said, oh, boy.
By that time, you had about, what, 365 days until SEMA? So there you go.
Well, it's not a SEMA build if you don't just have a month to do it, right?
Right. You got to procrastinate to the very end.
Yep.
So how much of that stuff do you guys do in house? The powder coating,
we got a local guy here that we do powder coating with, C-Race powder coating.
Okay.
Special paint work or anything like that. We use another guy, Evans Family Collision. We've been using them for years. Of course, Evans is not the cheapest around, but I don't never have to worry about their product when it comes to me. No chips, no scratches. They buff it, they wet sand it. Everything's done. Don't have to deal with it no more. They do a lot of hoods for us and stuff like that. We get like the metal cloak fenders and stuff like that. People want them paint matched, and they don't want that little bit of an off color from powder coat. They want them specifically paint matched. Then I send them over to them. But we don't do any of that kind of stuff in house. Maybe one day, but for now we just focus on suspension. Whether it's up or down, small or tall, we lift them all. Or lower. So
and you guys really do everything from Ford, Chevy, Toyota, you name it, cars. Yeah. What is the absolute worst vehicle to lift?
You really want me to answer that?
Just curious.
Oh man.
I mean, if it starts with a T and ends with a Yoda, I mean, I'm okay with you saying it, but we'll leave it at that.
To be honest with you, man, they all have their ups and downs. I'll be straight up honest with you. Jeeps, they have their problems. Toyotas, they have their problems. Fords, they have their problems. Chevrolets, Dodges, everything has their problems.
Which is true. There's never one.
Yeah. So it's really hard to pick just one. Certain years, of course, are worse than others.
Right.
Like your Super Duties, anything with a 6.0, is gonna probably blow.
Yeah. And of course, my blessing is anything with a 3.8 in it is a wonderful motor in the JK. I did look it up one time, and I think my JK has 220 horsepower from the factory, and I think a Prius had 198. But it's not really that big a deal. whatever. It only goes like 55 miles an hour up a hill, 65 if it's got a good downhill before it.
You're starting to talk numbers like my damn smart car now, man.
It's yeah, they could have done without that 3.8 motor, and God knows I had to go purchase the darn thing. What one of my hopes in purchasing was that I could blow it up and then be realizing it's a gutless but tough motor. So
It is.
good luck blowing it up. I'm gonna have to try a little harder. So see what happens. Just give it back to Clinton. What you talk about lifting everything and doing all that. How do you keep? You got a small staff.
Yep.
You're not huge. Two of you and your wife. I'm sure you don't have your wife out there wrenching on things. So
Nope.
that's one less person on the floor.
Yep.
How do you keep knowledge up, quality up when you do everything with minimal staff?
Well, it's kind of turning the reins loose a little bit and trusting my employees. We do. I wish I could say that we don't have comebacks. We do have comebacks. Nobody's perfect. And the people that say that they don't have any comebacks are full of shit.
Yeah, they lie.
Yep.
Heck, I got mine. I got mine from a local guy the other day, just doing an alignment, and the castle nut didn't find a pin in it and wiggled its way out. So, you know, it happens to everybody.
It does happen.
You're gonna miss a nut every now and then.
Yeah, and that's just like with us. You know, every single lift kit or lowering kit we do, we get them back in for our first initial inspection. I cover that inspection. It's free of charge. It's usually $135 because it's about an hour to go over everything. Yeah. But what that is for, you know, just as well as I do, you put a suspension kit on one. Sometimes some things work loose. Sometimes you skip a nut. Sometimes brake line bracket might be rubbing a sway bar, something like that. So it gives us a little bit of room to realize, hey, there's an issue with this. There's an issue with this. We can resolve it right now. We do have people that opt not to come back, which just blows my mind for a free service that they wouldn't get their stuff checked up. Right. And then 2 years down the road, they call cussing us out because we messed their truck up. We get that a lot too.
Sure.
But
sure, because it's been sitting in your driveway, not moved in the last 2 years. But no problem.
They've been driving the wheels off of it for 2 years.
Right. Without
getting the proper checkups and stuff like that.
Right.
You know, we emphasize the checkups because most manufacturers say about 6,000, 5,000, 6,000 miles, get everything retorqued, back down to spec, check it out, and all like that. And it's more of a preventive maintenance. And then also during that checkup, we check your brake pads. We check to make sure that your steering wheel's straight. If it's pulling or something like that, we'll say, hey, man, you want us to do an alignment since it's pulling or something like that. The first initial, though, if it's off, then we're going to realign it no matter what.
Right.
Because of settlement, stuff like that, it always happens. The steering wheel will be off a little bit. But other than that, you know, we check everything. We'll check your ball joints. We'll check your tie rod ends. We'll check your steering box, make sure it don't have play in it, anything like that. And if you have any concerns, just let us know up front because we're going to find whatever we're going to find too. And, you know, we offer those services to fix them as well. So we do a little bit of mechanical work too, but most of what we do is just installs on lift kits, lowering kits. We do some exhaust here and there. You know, lighting, we do rock lights, underglow, and then of course air ride too, and helper bags as well. So we do all of that.
I guess my question to the what's the worst one, the follow up to that is what vehicle do you lift the most? I'm sure it's. I was going to say I'm sure it's more, you know, because of the East Coast, you know, where you are too, as well.
The salt air,
yeah,
salt air and the rest.
And a lot more trucks probably. than some
Yep.
other areas probably would. But what's the vehicle you probably lift the most?
We lift the most. We do Jeeps.
Yeah.
Jeeps is a little over 50% of what we do.
Okay.
Well, I say 50%. It's probably about 45, 50, somewhere along in there. But we do a ton of trucks too. We try not to specialize just in one brand, because you can't help the market. This is a predominantly known Jeep area. That's why they do the Jeep Jam in this area. Same with Smoky Mountains. That's a big Jeep
Sure.
area as well. But there's people out there that do just specialties, like just Toyotas, just Chevrolet, just Ford, just Jeeps, whatever. I wanted to specialize in suspension.
Okay.
If it's got wheels on it, we know that there's going to be a problem sooner or later. So we wanted to be able to take that initiative and fix what we needed to fix, or set up your ride. And we usually sit down, like I teach my sales staff, sit down with the customers, see what they need. If they're not going to be rock crawling every single day, then they don't need a long arm kit.
Right.
If they just want to be a mall crawler, then set them up with just a springs and shocks kit or something like that. Something that's going to ride good, something that's not going to break their wallet. And that's one thing that we try to do a lot of, is we set it up to where it's budget friendly, and we can go all the way crazy if you want to. Like, we can do coilover conversions on 2500 Chevrolets, 3500 Chevrolets. We just did a BDS coilover conversion on one.
Oh wow. Yeah.
And it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's about a 20-hour job, and you got to resupport the shock bracket and all like that, because that's where the coilover goes.
Yeah.
Little things like that. Being able to do that, we do under the bed notches for lowered trucks. We do bed raises for like start forward body drops and all that stuff. We do all that stuff. Making sure there's enough clearance for your wheels, trimming your fenders out, stuff like that. There's so much stuff. Stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot people don't think of, and they don't, because that's not their world. They really just want to ride it and just have it and ride it and enjoy it without doing all the back end work that it takes. I mean, you got yourself, myself, Clinton. I mean, you got guys that we live for rock crawling, and if we break it, we try to fix it, and we fix it, and we'll do all the back end research and work, and sit up at night and go through part numbers and all that else. And there's people that just don't want to, and there's nothing wrong with that. And enjoy the world of off-roading, lifting vehicles, because you're right. I think it is. I think specializing in suspensions is enjoying what you have, over just always feeling like you have to do something with it. Yeah. So I think that's awesome. What talk about your employees and working with your wife. You guys have worked together ever since you were married, I take it? So,
pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. She hasn't
it-
fired you yet, so
She fires me and hires me right back.
okay. I remember the old Simpsons episode. Is if you leave on Friday, don't come back on Monday, and woohoo 4-day weekend.
Hey,
Yeah. So
sometimes
sweet.
it be like that.
Good. I get a 4-day weekend. See you on Tuesday.
Oh, hey.
You're fired until tomorrow. Kind of the gig. So yeah, what is the best advice you have for working with your spouse? For you guys have been doing it for 15 years now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. We got married in 2012.
Okay.
So about 13, 14 years now. We've been working together, hand in hand. He at first was very nervous of talking with people. And now I'll throw her to the wolves, and she'll come out with the only one standing.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of her for how strong she is in doing sales and all that stuff. You know, she's listened to me talk for so many years, and I talk about this and I talk about that, and she's told me repeatedly, she's like, you have so much useless knowledge. Now she's realizing that useless knowledge is not so useless. She's like, you know, she's like, I always thought you were full of it, but you know, you're right. You said this years ago, and she said I didn't think nothing about it, but now I see where that fits into what we do. Like some of the stupidest things. They'll talk about. Let's see. You've been in the game for a while too, so you know about like the XJs and the TJs, how the back shock top bolts break off the shock all the time and all like that.
Yep.
And you know, I keep those bar pin eliminators in stock. I keep them in stock. I got 12 of them on the shelf at all times.
Yep.
And one of my guys,
somebody's gonna roll in with that.
Yep. One of my guys ran into that issue, and he's like, "Man, I can't get the shocks off." I said, "Break them off. Don't worry about it." He's like, "You can't get to the bolts." And I was like, "Break them off. Don't worry about it. I'll show you." So break them off. Go over there, and I just took a screwdriver and a hammer and tapped them out. And he's like, "Now what are you gonna do, smarty?" I walked over to the shelf, pulled them off, stuck them up there, and put the bolts back in. He's like, "What?" I was like, "Dude, they make a lot of this stuff." I said, "This is simple stuff." I said, "But you gotta talk to me first if you don't know what's going on." Which that guy's not with me anymore. He left a few years ago. I don't know where he's at now, but that's just one of them things. It's probably for the best that he did leave.
Right. I was gonna say, how do you find talent nowadays? I mean, it's
man, it's hard.
I was gonna say hard. you don't have a lot of kids coming out. They're not teaching the stuff in school much anymore.
No.
You know, it's not. I mean, people aren't living the farm life. They're not dragging their uncles after school, learning this stuff. I mean, where do you find the guys that you get in the shop?
So my nephew, when he was 15 years old, he was working with me here at the house at the shop in the summer times or after school or anything like that. So he knew exactly what I needed. I trained him from day one. Now, like he left high school. He went to a couple trade schools and all like that. He worked at Honda for 3 years.
Okay.
They sent him to all kinds of courses. So he's actually certified for the alignment machine that we have. And I bought it just because of him, the Hunter Hawkeye Elite. So he's actually got certification on that machine.
Very cool.
And he came to me after he worked at Honda for, like I said, 2.5, 3 years. And he's like, Uncle Curtis, can I come to work for you at the shop? And I was like, yeah, sure. Well, he didn't come immediately. He went to Spectrum doing house installs. He decided he was going to do that because somebody talked him into a lot of money.
Right.
And he found out the hard way a couple months later that was not his gig.
Right.
So he called me up begging me for a job. And I was like, dude, come on down. I said, come on down. We'll sit down. We'll talk. I said, we'll see how much you remember. And he's been with me almost 3 years now.
Okay.
Back with me at the new shop. Great asset. Wouldn't trade him for nothing. You know, he's not the fastest tech in the world. If it's a 10-hour job, it's going to take him at least 8 to 10 hours. He's very thorough. He has very, very minimal comebacks. And that's he's basically me, but slower. Because I remember training him. I remember training him everything. And you know, I remember his mom, which is my sister, telling me, she's like, you're too hard on him at the house and all that stuff. And she's like, you need to relax with him. I said, well, he's got to learn someday. I said, you know, he can't be up under your wing the rest of his life. He's got to learn how to deal with the public.
Right.
And he's turned out to be a great kid. He really has. He's in his early to mid 20s now. and he's just, like I said, I wouldn't trade it for nothing. My other tech, Will, he's been a mechanic for 15, 20 years.
Okay.
He worked for Volkswagen, he worked for Honda, he did tow trucks for a while, diesel mechanics, all kinds of stuff, and he's always done like airbags on the side. Like he built an air ride truck at his house. He hit me up one day and he's like, hey man, he said, are you hiring? I was like, yeah, come on down. I said, let's talk. And he's been with me over 2 years now. He just had his 2 year anniversary. And I wouldn't trade him for the world.
Yeah.
You know, he definitely has his days. He's got mood swings, but who doesn't in the mechanic world? It's just it's the mechanic side of the hairdresser salon. There's a lot of drama.
That's all it is. If you don't throw a tool at least once a week, then you need outside therapy.
Yeah,
because you haven't got it out yet. So
Yep. Know that feeling all too well. But when it comes to air rod or something like that, he's our go-to. And I can do all this stuff too, and that's what a lot of people don't see, because I turned wrenches for a long time.
no.
And so if they got any questions or something like that, they instantly come to me. They're like, hey, I ran into this block. How can I get past this? So I'll walk them through it or something like that, or we'll sit down if it's something I've never seen, which, you know, in this industry, everything's always a learning process.
Right.
I'll sit down with them. We'll get around it. Now my other tech, my Brazilian boy, Philip, he's been with us about a month and a half now, 2 months.
Okay.
So like I said, he's still a little green, but he's doing great.
Okay.
His first weekend, he didn't have too many jobs because we didn't know how to set him up or anything like that until we knew exactly what he could do. So he was shadowing my nephew. He would get bored in between the jobs and just like, man, he was scrubbing the damn floor.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. I was like, are you okay? He's like, yeah, man. He said, I can't work in nastiness. And I said, oh, I love you already.
I'll take you. You're hired. How much?
Yep. My other two guys, man, I love them to death. Ethan, he'll clean up after himself. Poor Will, man. I just, oh man, he'll leave boxes there for a week or two.
I mean, you got to have one in every shop, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So.
Yep. He does so much. He honestly probably does 15, 20 hours of work in an 8-hour job, an 8-hour day, every single day.
That's awesome.
It's absolutely amazing with him. And he's comfortable. He just stays there and he gets done with his jobs. He walks on. He'll go do something else. He'll go clock out, work on his own stuff. And I'm like, dude, are you serious? Why don't you clean up?
Well, every shop's got to have at least one.
Yep.
One of those guys. So, what would be your? Let me ask you this: what's the best advice that you've ever been given in the world of off-roading or in the world of business? What's one of those advices that stick with you?
Biggest thing is never care about what somebody has to say about you negatively. That's the biggest thing in life. You know, once you get to that stage in your life that you realize you're going to have haters no matter what. You're going to have people that want to put you down no matter what you do, no matter how much good you do in the community or anything like that. Best advice I was ever given is just let it slide.
Yeah.
Do you. Don't worry about them. It gets under their skin even worse. Another thing that I was always told is believe in what you do. If you don't believe in what you do and you don't love what you do, then you need to change professions.
Yeah.
And that's one thing, you know, FBK is not just a business. It's a way of life. It's a brand. It's something, you know, my kids will get up in the morning. I'm wearing an FBK shirt to school today. And, you know, I'm always branded out. I'm not today, of course. I got a Santa shirt on. I got my hat on though. But I'm usually always decked out in FBK gear as well. My wife, she'll dress up some days in FBK, and some days she'll do her. So
Wow.
it's one of those things. You know, our trucks are branded. Everybody around here knows who we are, and I try to put my best face forward all the time, because you never know who's watching you,
Sure.
and there's a lot of eyes on us.
Yeah. And I think those are two great pieces of advice, and I think they go hand in hand, because
Yep.
when you're confident in what you do, you don't care what other people think,
Nope.
because you know what you're doing is what you need to be doing.
Yep.
And you're right. Is it always perfect? No. But
No.
once you're confident in that, and you're confident in being able to fix what wasn't, and continue to grow and continue to learn, then you're right. You could care less what other people think.
Yeah.
And that's you're right. I think they go hand in hand.
Yeah. If you always know if you're doing something right, because somebody's going to hate on it.
Right.
That's a proven fact, time and time again. And the best thing to do is just go on about your business. Because if you show it doesn't bother you, that makes them even worse.
Right.
You can laugh about it later.
Well, and normally that person and that individual, or whatever it is that's giving you that kind of feedback, isn't doing what you're doing.
No.
And they're not at the level that you are. And
No.
you don't have a lot of people above you criticizing you.
No.
It's always the people behind you or below you that do most of the criticizing.
Every single day.
Yeah, and if you learn that too, that it's like, whatever, you're not where I'm at today, so good luck.
Yeah. And believe me, I love where we are today, but I wish I could scale it back. I wish I could go back to being a little more personable at every build. We're not a large shop. A lot of people think we are, because we turn out anywhere from 5 to 15 trucks a day.
Yeah.
Some days we do a couple. And it just really depends. And usually the days we're doing a couple is just like a couple day builds, stuff like that. Right. Big lifts on like Z71s or Fords or something like that. But a lot of days we do like single day, and we'll do like a 2.5 inch springs and coils and shocks kit. Excuse me, I'm stumbling on my words. Wheels, tires, alignment, stabilizers, stuff on a Jeep. That's a single day turnaround.
Yeah.
We got some other builds that are single day turnarounds too. And at the end of the day, I still have to remember we're a small business, and we get calls all the time. Well, how many people you got working for you? And I'll just tell them, I got 6 or 7 people working for me. And they're like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty small." I was like, "Yeah, it is, but we stay packed. We stay slammed." I think, if I remember correctly, today we booked out the 3rd week in January already.
Yeah.
So,
And I think it's a balance to find, because you overextend yourself, and then you're leveraged,
yep.
and then you're in trouble when,
Yep.
God forbid, whatever happens. But you find that balance between not wearing yourself out, but
Yep.
yet not being bored. Live there.
Yep.
It could, because there's a balance there too, because you still got a family at home, and you got kids, and you don't need to live the shop, even though you do.
Well, it used to
You
be
don't need to live.
worse.
It used to be a lot worse. Is that what you said?
It used to be worse. It used to be a lot worse.
So where did you find that balance? How did you find that balance?
The balance came when I decided that the 843-340-8333 number is a cell phone. That was my everyday cell phone. That cell phone is still in existence. It is face down on my counter at the shop. Done. Last year we started with a new digital phone system. So everything from that number is forwarded into the digital phone system. Well, now that phone system don't turn on until 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
And it turns off at 5 o'clock every afternoon. So everything else goes straight to voicemail. So I still get them in an email if I check the emails every day, but I don't check them until the next day because I have to turn that off. I have to have family time. If I don't have family time, and then this side of me just don't want to work, don't want to do nothing. So I had to realize there was a cutoff, and it took. I'll be honest with you, probably took 5 or 6 years for that cutoff to actually kick in. Everybody's like, "Well, I don't understand why you're not answering your phone." Dude, and he's like, "I called you like 10 times last night." Yeah, exactly. You called me 10 times last night. That's why you didn't get me. I was having people call 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, waking us up for prices for a lift kit. So it had to stop.
Google it. Like, leave me alone. I don't even want to tell you about that. But go to sleep.
It got rough, dude. It got rough there for many years, and I was like, you know what? I think the best thing I can do is just get a different cell phone, and then whatever is shop line, do the shop line, and then I have my personal cell phone number. So that's what I'm on right now is my personal cell phone, and I've had probably 3 different numbers since I changed that.
Yeah.
Once this number gets out, then I'll change it again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's a great way to have that stability and balance to life. It's business can be conducted during business hours.
Exactly.
Suspension lifts aren't life and death.
Nope.
Neither one of us are doctors, and I'm not running an ER. Like, you're good. You'll be okay tomorrow morning at 9.
I got a couple buddies of mine around here that's got businesses, and they're like, "Man, I don't see how you do it." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "Man, my phone rings all night." And I said, "Well, let me tell you how I did that." And I told him, like, "Well, I never thought about doing that." I said, "Dude, it's cheaper to buy another cell phone, turn that one off at night, let it go to your voicemail."
Yeah.
I said, and I'm telling you, man, you'll be sane. You won't have to worry about going insane and midnight calls, 1 o'clock calls, and like that. It will keep you in a mindset that wants to do business.
Yeah,
and
that's
a few of them have done it, and they're like, "Man, this is like night and day." I wake up every morning now. I want to work.
Yeah, because you actually slept.
It will run you in the ground. Yeah, it will run you in the ground, and you don't want to do it. It'll burn you out. You don't want to mess with it no more. I've been there, done that.
Yeah.
Like I said, every day when you were asking me earlier, every day I say, "Was this a mistake?"
I don't need one more thing.
Yep.
To ask that question about. Right. So some of the generic questions we ask, what's your best advice for somebody getting into off-roading?
Well, have a level head. Definitely listen to your spotters. Listen to the old heads that are out there. They've been around the block a few times. They've been over a few rocks too. 9 times out of 10, man, if you come level-headed, somebody's not going to steer you in the wrong way. I've helped a lot of people out over the years on the trails, stuff like that, and I've had help too. Even being a seasoned vet, doing all this stuff, it's always good to hear somebody else's perspective on stuff too. Be able to listen and learn. Be humble. That's the biggest thing. Even if you don't want to hear what they got to say, listen to them. You still may learn something.
Yeah. And great advice. Yeah, I've heard that one a few times, and if you're going to go do it and you don't know what you're doing, don't be cocky and think, "Oh, I'm going to show out." Because every guy that's you're looking up to has been in your boat at one point in time in their lives or another.
We all started somewhere.
Yeah. And my story is I finally had to admit to a guy that I kept giving every excuse to about he's begging me to go four-wheeling because I had a 92 Chevy with 35s underneath it. He's begging me to take me out. One, he wanted to just, he wanted to scare the living crap out of me and have some fun with me. But, I finally had to admit to him after multiple excuses of saying, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. Just show me. He's like, all right. One of my best friends to this day. And that was 20, what are we in, 24? So that was 25, 26 years ago. So, yeah, it's just be humble and admit when you don't know what you're doing and ask for advice and take it. So what, I mean, you lift everything. So what's, best suspension on the market? I didn't ask you worst. So let's just run with that.
Let's see, what kind of vehicle?
Well, I guess we go anywhere. So, I mean, your primary lift is a Jeep. And Yoda would be probably behind that, or probably your trucks would be.
Yeah.
So you got your IFS and your solid axle on a Ford and a Chevy.
Yep.
Which make that different.
All right. Let's say your Jeep.
Yeah.
What year is yours?
The good old 3.8 JK. So the 08.
Okay. 08. 2-door, 4-door?
4.
4-door. All right. You going off-road a lot? Rock crawling?
Sure.
All right. How big of a tire you want to
go? Let's say 37. I'm rolling 37. A 40, but I'd probably love to just go back to a 37.
Let's see. You gonna be doing extreme off road, or you gonna do like
East Coast? So
East Coast. I'd probably go with either a metal cloak game changer, like a 3.5, 4.5. That way you got plenty of clearance.
Yeah.
Or I like a little bit of Terraflex too. Terraflex ain't bad. And do the Alpine arms, stuff like that. Other than that, depending where else you want to go with it. We've done some Fab Tech, we've done some BDS systems, but the BDS for Jeeps is not the greatest.
Yeah.
It's like a 2.5, 3, and it's it's a very minimal kit.
And you're saying something they already know.
Yep. Let's see. Clayton makes a good kit. I'm a fan of Clayton. My go-to on doing a lot of off-road though is going to be a metal cloak. I'm still an old head with that. I know a lot of people say metal cloak is the gold version of rough country, but I'm cool with them. I like them. I really do. I like their joints, and that's like rough country too. Rough country ain't the same company they used to be.
No,
they're killing the market right now.
They are, and unfortunately, they're still living with the same name.
Yep.
Which hinders them a little bit. But yeah, their products are definitely improving
definitely
massively.
Not the same designers.
Yeah,
they got a lot of the top R&D guys from a lot of the big companies. Like they've changed a lot of stuff.
And even in your questions in that, I hope anybody listening to this realizes that it's not just scrolling down a list and going, I want that one. It never is. I mean, go back to your advice about listening. Go ask questions. If you want to lift something and you want to start somewhere, you've never lifted a Jeep or a Chevy or anything, go ask questions before you just go, definitely. Oh, Joe Schmo said, get this one or get that one, and I should just do that. Or just picking one just because you wanted to stuff a tire underneath the vehicle is a horrible idea. And I'm sure you have every person that walks in the door going, I want a 40 under my Jeep. I want this lift. Well, great. You're gonna break it in like 30 seconds after you leave here. The first curb you hit.
That's like my Gladiator. My Gladiator's got 40s on it, and I got stock axles, stock gears. But we're on flat land around here, and I plan on doing gears. I plan on doing a lot of other upgrades to it too. But just like everybody else, I have to do it in stages too. Yeah. And everybody's like, "Oh, you should have built that straight out the gate." And I'm like, "Why? When I break something, I build it."
And
And that's a lot of people's mentality about a lot of stuff, that you have to go gung ho on this stuff.
Right.
You don't. You don't. You build what you can afford right now, then you add something later, then you add something later, and then it all adds up in the end. Yeah, you have to suffer a little bit with a little bit of power loss with not re-gearing right away. But honestly, on the newer 8 speeds, it's not as bad as a lot of people think.
right. Well,
Um,
if you build it right out of the gate and you change one thing, you change everything.
yep,
You change your gearing, you change your axle in the front. You do any of that, you're changing your drive line, you're changing everything from the tire up. And
yep,
I mean, heck, I got running a 44 in the front. I got RCVs in it. And it's running 40s. I'd love to go to an 8 lug, but that means I got to change all my wheels and
yep,
change the rear axle. And
yep,
it's
yep,
just saying one thing you want to change means you got 5
yep.
other
It's a
things you
triple
got to
effect.
go bust out the funds for, and that can hurt real quick,
Yep,
real
yep.
quick. So what's next for FBK? What's you talked about your buddy doing hopefully another SEMA build. What you guys you I know you guys you have a JL that you guys use for your shop vehicle
I got a JT.
or JT.
I had a 392 Wrangler that we
Okay.
used. I sold it back in February. Um, Great Jeep. Don't get me wrong. I love the power. Gas mileage sucked, but power was nice. And
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I just thought it was overpriced for what it was. Um, and I can only smile so damn much before I'm tired of something. Like I said, it had great power. It's always fun pulling the 40s off the ground on the front end from a dead launch. But over time, it got old, and that big ass payment every month
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It just hurt my wallet every month. And I was like, I can't do this no more. So I went back to a full size Chevrolet pickup truck, and
Okay.
then in August, a buddy of mine called me up. He's like, "Hey man," he's like, "you might want to dump that truck." And he's like, "It's dropping in value bad." So I lost some good money on that before I got rid of it. But I went back to the Jeep world, and I got an Anvil Gray 2024 Gladiator.
Okay.
Uh, I ended up I wanted to do 40s back on it, like my other couple Gladiators I've had before. I had a 2020 and a 2022. I was actually one of the first people around here to actually have a Gladiator. I was like the third one in this area when they first come out in the end of 19. So I've had 40s on Gladiators from pretty much the get-go. I had, I think Rough Country had come out with a 3.5-inch spacer kit at the time. Nobody else had anything for them, and I stuffed 40s on it.
There you go. Just slam it and let's go. And
um,
again, what are you going to use it for? So
I'll be honest with you, I beat the crap out of that one. I beat the crap out of the black one, and this one's had a great life. This one it's been off road like one time pretty much, and that was just my son driving it. No, actually, yeah, he drove it through the obstacle course too. So it's been a couple times
there you
now.
go.
That and gulches and stuff like that. But I don't know. I think we're gonna start taking on V8 swaps this year sometime. I've talked with the guys down at Bruiser a few times over the last couple of years, and I am more of a Chevrolet motor guy.
Yeah.
So I like their 6.6 platforms and their
Yeah.
LS swaps.
Yep.
Again, I think a lot of people like to be brand loyal. Hemis, Jeeps. I don't knock it. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
I'm not a big Hemi fan. And it's nothing to do with the motor itself or the brand itself. I just think they're overrated,
Yep.
which sucks because I want to love them. I really do. But I think offering a little bit different something in the area will be a little bit better. We're looking on taking on a probably doing bedliners and insides Jeeps and possibly full outsides of vehicles as well on doing bedliners. And I'm also looking at doing a couple CNC tables this year to start making some parts. So hopefully
Those
everything works
are
out.
3 big jumps that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can at least pull off 1 or 2 of those this year.
Very cool.
I know during COVID, I wanted to expand right before COVID hit.
Right.
I actually had plans for 2 other shops spread out in our area. I had one on the other side of Conway, which had been about 25 miles from the main shop. And then I was looking at one going down the south end, another 25 miles south, Pawleys Island area.
Yep.
And then when COVID hit, it was just done.
Yeah.
Luckily, I hadn't signed the leases on the places yet because I was steady looking and we were wheeling and dealing. But I've always heard everything happens for a reason. So somebody was looking out for me and told me not to sign yet. And then I don't even think it was 2 weeks they released the COVID thing.
Yeah.
From the time I was about to sign. And so I've always wanted to do that again too. But, as busy as we are and as hard as it is to get help right now.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to do anything.
Right.
So it's really hard to open another shop right now.
Yeah, and then you got to worry about quality control because there's still one of you, and if you don't have that person managing that shop or the other shop, it leverages you, not financially but time wise as well. So, yeah. What would be? I think I asked you this in Myrtle Beach. What would be what's your ultimate build? No money, nothing. Money no limit.
I would have to say, a full bouncer.
Yeah.
Full bouncer. Go balls to the walls. 11, 12, 1,300 horsepower.
Just hammer it.
Nothing but air.
Busted knuckle all the way to the top, right?
Yeah. Do it to it.
That I have not been to a bouncer event yet, a true one. You catch a few out in Gulches every now and then. There's some guys that play out there. You see 1 or 2 in Windrock, but not so many out there. But I really want to get to one of their circuit runs.
It's an experience.
I bet.
It's an experience. I got a buddy of mine that's got a bouncer, and he took me for a ride in Gulches, and I'm gonna go ahead and tell you, man, it's an experience.
There's some of those ledges and gulches that are just there's no way, but yet you get one of those guys and they find a way.
Yeah, and pedal it all the way up.
Oh, yeah, I my 44 in the front will definitely not do that. I guarantee you that.
Well, it would do it maybe a little bit.
Right. I'd have an 80 on it very quickly or not. I would want to have an 80 because it would be broken for sure. So, well, Curtis, this has been awesome. What a blessing to have you on, man. Congratulations. Congratulations to you and your shop and the growth that you guys have had.
Thank you.
If people want to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
You can give us a call at 843-340-8333, or you can email us at fbkoffroad@gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, and again, we are the Off-Road Campfire Podcast. You can email us at offroadcampfire@gmail. If you have any compliments about what we do, complaints, you can leave those too. I will delete those for the 5 people that listen to this. If you want to find us on YouTube, Spotify, if you want to watch the videos, the live videos, they're on YouTube and Spotify. Everything else you can find on all the podcast soft platforms and so forth. And of course, you guys are on Instagram, Facebook, all that other fun stuff, social media across the board as we are too. So check out FBK Off-Road. And thank you for listening to us on the Off-Road Campfire Podcast. It is definitely time to put out the fire. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time around the campfire.